I did a lot of work, and a lot of thought into the mixing and the
Mm,
vocal like effects and whatnot. And I really feel like what stands out about the vocals is that because of the way I did like the reverb and then some of the spaces in here, I feel like the song comes together really well because the vocals and the instrumentals are just kind of in the same space. And I
mm.
feel like that's really important to glue a song together is to make sure they're all coming from the same place, you know. Um, Not too much reverb here, or too much there, or, off shifting where things are, where things placed. There's just a lot of thought that went into everything, and I'm pretty proud of the way it turned out.
Nice. And what effects did you use on your lead line to get that?
So on the main
Mm,
vocals, I started off with just a volume and a clipper so that I could do some gain staging, kind of set the levels where they need to be. And then I moved on to EQ with these three, and this just kind of takes out the low end to kind of clear up the signal and move around some frequencies for the bass.
mm.
And then this just boosts the high vocals just because me personally, my preference, I like the higher frequencies. I like that shininess. And so I went ahead and boosted that. And then the vocal clarity plugin is actually really nice and opened up just the like my voice and then also the clarity of what I was saying a lot. Um,
Mm.
and then move on to compression and do a dynamic compressor just to, those some of those high points when my voice gets a little louder just to bring it back down, and then reverb and delay um, to, create the space and the kind of like open, echoey, like psychedelic feel of the song almost.
Nice. Nice. I love that. Could I hear that lead line soloed actually?
Baby got that night glow, party how we might go. We can't ride together, but said you'll meet me inside though. You say you need a ride home, I say yeah alright ho. Say
Mm.
that I'm so grounded, so clouded that I could fly though.
Nice. Nice little tail on that reverb as well.
I mean, even going through the preset again, I mean, everything I mentioned, I mean, I do that not only because of the way I like it, but also just because in my opinion, this is the way I think vocals should be mixed.
Mm.
Signal flow is really important, especially with your vocals, because it's almost like you're sending a signal of your voice through, and you got to make sure that it starts here and ends here and doesn't start here and end here, volume wise. You got to make sure everything's level, and so in your doing effects, what's really important is to remember like I mentioned, signal flow, like these volume knobs to, go ahead and start us off well, adjust that so that you're gain staged correctly. And then do your filters so that whenever you go to your reverb, you're not picking up, too much of your low frequency over here. Because if I didn't do this, then these two plugins would not work the same way and they wouldn't work as well because this isn't doing its job. Uh, so
Yeah.
for me, I almost think about it like a math equation, like PEMDAS. Like the order of operations is very important.
Mm. And I see on top of that as well, when I'm looking at your reverb and delay here, you've chopped out some of the low end as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So over here, even on the stereo delay too, I cut out that low end because I do want that reverb, but um, I actually came to find that if I put reverb on the 808s that I did, it kind of filled out that space better than if I left the lower end of the reverb in there.
Mm.
It's almost just, carving out space and making room for different instruments and frequencies, and some of the unlikely places. Because when you want to make more room for the bass, the first place you go is the kick drum, right? Well,
Mm.
I was like, well, how can I work around that? Where else can I, get rid of low frequencies? And I was like, cut the low end of my voice out, on the reverb and on the other takes. That's why that filter is there at the beginning. The 48 dB octave, that low cut right there serves a big purpose. And, those high shiny vocals, that's how you get is you cut out all that low end and boost the high. So right here is kind of like almost I don't want to say climax of the song, but it's definitely it's like the bridge before the ending. We have
Mm.
these vocals right here that kind of repeat as a main melody from the beginning. And that's kind of like your dun dun dun. So I counted that as like 1, 2, 3, 4, like a consistent thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so whenever we come back into this next part, you hear multiple different vocal parts. So to break that down, we start with that consistent vocal that I was talking about earlier. And then we pull from earlier in the song, we pull the chorus right here, which is going to be like the half note, I'd say. Um, sorry, I'm pulling back my notes here. I had it all written down. So right here, this is the like the halftime. So the so that's kind of like the halftime.
Hmm.
And then you add in these triplets that are like these are faster. So you hear how
Hmm.
um, that faster melody gets added into the background there. Um, and what was cool about this too is that all of these vocal parts have all already happened in the song. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, moving on to bigger things and better part, these triplets. That's the first verse from the song earlier.
Hmm.
But I love taking parts and pieces of what I've already done, and kind of like layering them together to create something new.
Yeah.
Um,
And did you intentionally do that when you were writing the song, like between verse, chorus, bridge? Were you intentionally thinking, okay, I need half notes here, quarter notes here, triplet notes here?
yeah, kind of.
Nice.
Initially, no. And then I went back and kind of
Hmm.
changed it to fit that formula. Because in my head, I was like, I want to build it like kind of like how you're saying. I had kind of planned it out because I kind of want it to be like a. Um, I was like, I'm gonna slowly present these pieces, and then I want to bring them all together at the end.
Yeah.
So like right there, that last part, um, this part specifically was kind of. I mean. Didn't want to call it the climax of the song, but I suppose that is what it is.
Hmm.
It's kind of the that last big like push before it all releases and the drums come back in and the song finishes out. Um,
Yeah. Can we hear that?
so
Can we hear the last section just going into the final chorus?
mics are actually all of them are panned. So this mic is center. Um, this part is panned. So like 50% left.
Hmm.
Um, and then this one should be panned, I believe, to the right. Yes. So this one is panned left, this one's panned right, and then they switch. This one goes left, this one goes right.
Ah, okay. So you,
And that panning actually is very it plays a big role in that part of the song.
hmm.
The way the synths are laid out and the way they play, and I could open that up into like the instrumental mix. But the way the instrumental is formulated right there, it almost feels like a swirling effect. I used the rotary plug-in to kind of create this really cool like kind of spinning feeling.
Nice.
And whenever you pan stuff back and forth, like whenever stuff starts moving, it's like, oh, we're kind of spinning in circles. Like this is a
Yeah.
cool sonic place that we've achieved.
Yeah.
And so panning is a really cool way to create a environment when you listen to music, as opposed to just like, you know, hearing it. Now you're like, oh, we're in a place, we're spinning, we're moving, like things are happening, the song is active. And it really captivates the listener's attention a lot more too when you do things like that in small details. And it's super cool that Soundtrap allows you to like open up stuff like this so quickly. I think I think this actually only took me maybe like 10 minutes to do. Um, just because I mean Soundtrap has all the tools and stuff. You just got to use your workflow. just so happens my workflow is pretty quickly through Soundtrap because I know how to use it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
nice.
so
Yeah,
that
thanks,
last
thanks
part
for
of the
sharing it. Thanks for sharing it as well.
I see you, can you see me? One-way mirror like glass on a screen. Doesn't want love, just a dancing queen. But she's up.
Nice. Talk me through that. Yeah, how did you add those
um,
harmonies? Why did you add them?
so what was cool about this? So we wanted to do kind of like a breakdown, just kind of like a change of tempo. I mean, you can hear it in the music, up here, just the we kind of pull back, like, like you got something to say before we continue on this like journey of this song. And I just kind of wanted those vocals to be like more, I would say almost impactful. Like I just kind of wanted them to stand out a little bit, like, oh, hey, come close. We're gonna talk for a second before I take you through the rest of this song.
Yeah.
And so a really good way to open up and do that is through harmonies because um, you can keep your main line of voice and also like your main melody, but you can have, stuff on the side adding to it, kind of making just a different sonic palette almost. It just creates really nice sound and it fit with the song really well too. Um, but I started off with this initial melody right here.
I see you, can you see
Um,
me? One.
And if you'll notice, I actually use the main vocal line on that one, but on these harmonies underneath, these are actually a little bit. I lied. I thought they were gonna be different. Never mind. They're just turned down. Some of the so that's another thing is that leveling these harmonies is really important. Because you can hear this harmony is
I see you, can you see me? One way.
so you see how this one they're mainly just two notes. Um, So one thing that I like to do personally, and I think this is it's a really cool harmony thing that you can do. Pick two notes, in a key like that harmonize well, and then just write a melody that harmonizes with those two notes, no matter what the melody is. Um, and so, whenever I did that with this, I added um, these two notes,
I see you, can you see me?
and I had to boot or I had to turn this one down. I had to turn the low end down to because that low harmony is going to come through louder because I'm a man and so my voice is low and so that lower range comes through a lot stronger than um per se like above the higher vocals.
One way mirror like.
And so I had to bring this down a little bit so it didn't overpower this. Um and then make sure that this was still loud enough to be heard with that. So it's just kind of like it's all about balance with harmonies. I'd very much recommend categorizing it into different, like low, high, medium, whatever. Your frequencies categorize things and organize them because it will make um, harmonizing and creating harmonies a lot easier. I know it can seem kind of daunting.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've gotten to places where I'm making songs and I'm like, ugh, I do not want to record harmonies right now. But I highly recommend it because you will be happier. This
I see you, can you see me?
sounds a lot better than just this.
I see you, can you see me?
So harmonies are worth it. They make great additions to songs. But yeah, sorry, I don't really know where I was going with
No,
that last part.
it's great advice. It's great advice. And did you
I was just
mix?
like,
Did you mix
uh,
the? I'm wondering. Did you actually mix the harmonies different with the effects chain, except for just adding in?
yeah, I thought that I did, but I
Yeah.
guess.
Or was it more
Um,
just like you were pulling it down in volume
oh
and?
wait, no, these are different, very slightly different, but they are. So this is the main vocal line.
Yeah.
Um, specifically, like these three are different, I think. Yeah, that one's different, and that one's different, I think. So I did different compression and EQ on these.
Nice. Cool.
That's what it was. Oh, yes, and then the voice type, I changed it to low to accommodate that. Okay,
Amazing.
now I see what it did. There we go.
Gain staging mean, and how did you use it when you were making Nightglow?
Gain staging is basically just like setting your levels before you record. Um, you gotta it's very important to check, like if you do multiple takes, like if you can see I chopped the chorus over here is in two different places, but I had to make sure that the effects and the volume and everything matched up exactly to keep it not necessarily uniform, but like together, just to make sure that it flows well. But like, mic placement, like when you're recording the mic, how far is the microphone away from your face? Um, where are you sitting? Are you going to be moving? Is this going to change? Is this going to change? You just got to pay attention to, your levels, and then also even going a step further, with gain staging, signal flow as well. It's gain staging and signal flow go hand in hand because you got to make sure that your input signal does not get dithered down while passing through all the different plugins. Because you do want your voice to be, modulated and changed by the plugins, but you don't want it to be, to succumb to, get sucked underneath all the plugins. You still need your voice coming through. So gain staging is very important to pay attention to. And then for me personally, when I was making this song, I would always, I'm weird, and you don't have to be like me, and I don't recommend being like me. But what I would do is I would take a chair and I would like tie it to the floor, um, so that I could not move and that my levels would be the same every time. I
Nice.
would put my chair like I'd put stuff under like weighted on top of the chair on the bottom. Well, like on the feet of the chair. There we go. So that the chair wouldn't move and that my levels would be the same every time. Because if the chair doesn't move and the mic doesn't move, your voice should be the same in theory.
Right. So that was to
Um,
control your vocal input. Right.
yes. It gets rid of more variability. And just kind of cuts down on like mistakes that can happen. Um,
Yes.
and also if your tracks are uniform and you don't have to make changes to fix one or the other, then you can save space in your projects, which is also very important.
Valid. Valid. Yeah. Great point.
Because if it's not the same and you need to make some tweaks, well, there's another track. Well, you could have saved space there, but you weren't gain staging, so.
Yeah, and I think gain staging also is really important when it comes to the final mix down as well, not only vocally but also instrumentally, because it allows you to make sure whatever you're giving to a mix engineer or when you mix it yourself, even it gives the track room to breathe. And I learned this
Mhm.
quite late in my musical journey as well. So yeah, great to hear and great to share with everyone.
I ain't worried about a thing. Meet me in the cloud when it rains.